The Canadian province of Ontario says it will slap a 25% surcharge on electricity exported to the U.S.
Canada has long been seen as a stable, safe place in North America because of its strong trade partnership with the United States. However, the recent tariff conflict is slowly changing this friendly image. Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has started speaking strongly against the U.S., shaking this old friendship deeply. On March 10th, Carney announced clearly that the old close relationship with the U.S. is over. Some people thought it was just political talk because of upcoming elections, but it now seems Ottawa is serious and planning real actions. In several recent statements, there have been clear signs that Canada could use its major strengths, especially in oil, gas, LNG, electricity, and cars, as leverage against the U.S. Carney's promise, "We will not back down," is exciting Canadian society, but it's also creating worry in the United States. Could this conflict really lead to an energy and trade crisis that might deeply affect all of North America? The energy industry is central to Canada's current actions. Recent official reports show that Canadian crude oil exports to the U.S. will reach over $100 billion in 2025. This huge number represents nearly one-third of all U.S. oil imports. Additionally, the U.S. heavily relies on Canada's natural gas and LNG. Experts point out that Canada sends around 7 billion cubic meters of LNG to the U.S. each year, covering a large part of the energy needs in several states. "We have these advantages because our neighbor puts unfair tariffs on us," Prime Minister Carney said clearly in a speech on March 12th. On the same day, Canada's Parliament released a statement saying that Canada can find new markets for its energy. Simply put, Ottawa is loudly declaring that they control the supply of energy and can decide when to increase or decrease it. Considering the U.S. dependence on Canadian energy, many experts think this could become a serious problem for Washington. Electricity trade is also very important strategically. Official reports show that Canada sent about 60 terawatt-hours of electricity to the United States in 2025. This covers about 10% of the electricity used in some U.S. regions. Canada, with its large hydroelectric resources and cold climate, sells electricity produced in the northern regions at very good prices to the U.S. On March 14th, people on social media began asking, "Will Canada stop sending electricity?" Because Ottawa could limit electricity exports through higher taxes or new restrictions. This might cause electricity costs to rise, especially in northern states and cities, with many industries relying on cheap energy. On the same day, an unnamed official from the Prime Minister's office increased tensions further by saying, "We are reviewing our trade rules in all areas, including electricity." Now people in Washington wonder if such a move could significantly disrupt production and everyday life. Of course, the issue doesn't end with energy. Canada is also deeply connected with the United States in the car industry. Canadian cars and car parts exported to the U.S. were worth more than $60 billion in 2025. At the same time, many car parts made in the U.S. are shipped to Canadian factories for final assembly. Now Prime Minister Mark Carney talks about raising tariffs and changing how the car industry works, saying that past mutual agreements are finished. On March 15th, Canada suddenly removed tax benefits for American electric car companies. Immediately afterward, rumors spread about possible new tariffs for certain manufacturers. Canada's actions in the car sector could affect brands like Tesla. Experts on social media predict these measures would increase production costs, causing prices to rise for customers. However, Ottawa says, "It's not our problem. It's the problem of the country that started these tariffs," shifting responsibility to Washington. The situation is also tense regarding agricultural products. Canada is one of America's largest agricultural trading partners, with total trade reaching nearly $50 billion in 2025. There is a heavy exchange, especially in wheat, canola, meat, and dairy products. On March 16th, Carney mentioned possible new taxes during his speech in Parliament, stating clearly, "They should not think we are weak in agriculture." According to official data from the same day, Canada's canola seed exports to the U.S. reached $2 billion. If trade stops, prices in the U.S. market could rise sharply. A disruption in Canadian animal feed products especially those used in U.S. livestock production, could seriously hurt American farmers. In this trade conflict based on mutual harm, Carney's statement, "We will not always be on the losing side," has strong support from the Canadian public. The U.S. buys goods from Canada worth hundreds of billions of dollars each year. On March 17th, an article in American media noted that Canadian oil is one of the largest items imported by the U.S., followed closely by cars and car parts. The same article estimated that U.S. imports from Canada were more than $450 billion in 2025. Canada doesn't only sell raw materials and energy, but also produces valuable finished products. Therefore, a sudden disruption in this closely linked supply chain could seriously affect both countries. On March 18th, Carney openly warned Washington by saying, "This deep connection is too complicated to test with unfair tariffs." On the same day, the U.S. government repeated their position, "We want fair trade." But no clear solution was found for Canada's tariff threats. The Trump administration's car tariffs are just one reason for Canada's tougher approach. In fact, the two countries have argued for a long time about steel, aluminum, and various agricultural products. On March 19th, media reports from North America said that Canada and the United States had tried negotiating several times, but Washington's insistence on America first left Canada with no choice. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney started reaching out to European and Asian markets to improve Canada's trade relations. On March 20th, during visits to France and the UK, discussions were held about opening new trade routes, especially in energy and car manufacturing. Right after these meetings, European newspapers asked, "Is Canada moving away from America's shadow?" When Carney was questioned about this, he indirectly confirmed, "We are developing our own trade." Currently, one of the most discussed topics publicly is whether Canada will cut electricity exports to the United States. Every year, Canada sends a large portion of its hydroelectric and nuclear energy production to the U.S. under trade agreements. These electricity exports are valued at over $3 billion each year. If Ottawa decides to use electricity as leverage, electricity prices in northern U.S. states could rise significantly. On March 21st, Carney said, "We will put oil and electricity on the table," which made tensions even higher. U.S. officials avoided directly commenting on this matter. However, representatives from the U.S. energy sector warned this could harm both U.S. and Canadian companies. Yet Carney repeated his strong position on March 22nd, saying, "We are not trying to cause damage, but we can't do nothing against unfair practices." The numbers in the car sector are also impressive. Canada produces about 2 million vehicles per year, with more than half sold to the U.S. Similarly, many car parts from the U.S. are used in Canadian factories. But Trump's car tariffs might harm American manufacturers too. On March 23rd, opinions on social media warned, if Canada places tariffs on car parts, factories in Detroit will suffer significantly. In a press conference the next day, Prime Minister Carney hinted at possible new tariffs, stating, "Car companies have long been important partners, but we cannot be the only ones paying the price for political pressure." This caused minor fluctuations in automotive stocks and increased market uncertainty. On agriculture, trade is also very important. Canadian products like wheat, meat, milk, and dairy are highly demanded in the United States. Canada's agricultural exports alone are expected to reach $50 billion. If Canada imposes tariffs or limits exports here, prices could sharply increase in U.S. supermarkets. On March 24th, an agricultural lobbyist told American media, "Many U.S. farmers rely on Canadian raw materials. If this supply chain breaks, food prices could rise dramatically." The next morning, Carney stated, "Nothing is guaranteed, including in agriculture." Carney's statement once again shows Canada is fully willing to escalate tensions. All these events highlight the huge trade between Canada and the U.S. Total trade between the two countries is valued at over $700 billion. This is one of the largest trading relationships not just in North America, but worldwide. The recent crisis shows how fragile this large trade can become. On March 25th, Mark Carney confirmed Canada's move toward European and Asian markets, stating, "Unfair tax decisions slow trade down. That's why Canada is seeking new partners." European newspapers report that France and the UK plan special trade agreements with Canada. especially in energy and car manufacturing. Some experts even suggest that if Canada and Europe create joint manufacturing, the U.S. market share could shrink. As of March 26th, details about Canada's planned retaliation measures, called April Retaliation, are still unclear. However, information leaking from Ottawa suggests new tariffs will focus especially on cars, metals, and agriculture. Regarding energy, Canada is considering selling to markets outside the U.S. rather than immediately stopping exports. On March 27th, Carney stated, "We are looking at different options in every sector because we don't fully trust any partner anymore." Social media was quickly filled with the question, will Canada really stop energy exports? U.S. officials have been careful with their statements. Some say the Trump administration made a mistake angering Canada, while others still hope the two countries will reach an agreement. The public wonders who will suffer more from this crisis. The U.S. heavily depends on Canada for energy, but Canada risks losing its biggest market. The deep integration of car industries makes it hard for either country to benefit alone. Rising food prices could hurt consumers in both countries. Border states are also concerned about protecting thousands of jobs linked to trade. On March 28th, Carney made it clear, "We might suffer in the short term, but we will protect our independence in the long run." Some observers think these strong words might be popular in Canadian politics, but could cause serious economic problems. How will Washington respond to Canada's statements? The first reaction from the White House was, "We are looking at all options to handle unfair practices." On March 29th, a news report suggested the Trump administration was thinking about imposing even tougher tariffs. This hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but Canada remains firm. Ottawa clearly says, they can do that if they want. We have more options. It's unclear if diplomacy will solve this or if a full-scale trade war will start. On March 30th, Prime Minister Carney didn't completely close the door, saying, "I'm always open to discussion, but I can't accept unfair demands." However, similar conflicts between these two neighbors in the past often led to tough negotiations and temporary economic disruptions. Perhaps this marks the start of a new era in North America. Canada's decision to review its trade relations and seek new partners in Europe and Asia could deeply change its relationship, not only with the U.S., but also with the global economy. On the other hand, if the U.S. continues taking protective measures for its market, this trade conflict could also involve Mexico and other countries. As of April, questions remain unanswered. Which retaliatory measures will Canada take? How will the U.S. respond? How will global markets react? Nevertheless, Prime Minister Carney's statement on March 31st, "Nothing is off the table," indicates that things may become much more serious than expected. Now it's your turn. Will a full trade war really happen between these two giant neighbors? Or will diplomacy save the day at the last minute? How much will Canada's multi-billion-dollar energy and car leverage affect the U.S. economy? This tension will surely leave lasting effects, but it remains unclear which side will back down first. What do you think about this? Don't forget to share your opinion. We'll keep you updated with more information as the story develops. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a like because we're approaching a critical moment that could shape the future of North America and the global economy.